All right, we now welcome Matt Kenseth into the media center. Matt's driving the Husky this week, right?
Good catch.
Yeah, Husky Home Depot Toyota. Matt's got 3 wins this year, and he's currently 3rd in points. Matt, tell us about heading to the All-Star, how you feel, and what do you expect?
Well, you never know what to expect. I think that's one of the exciting things about the All-Star event, but I feel great. Obviously, we had a great week last week, so glad to have Jason back at the track. Looking forward to getting on the track. I think qualifying is going to be very, very, very interesting. Getting on pit road wide open like that, so getting ready to go try a little bit of that, and hopefully get a decent balance today, and then go race tomorrow night.
Woody, Mike, and then Jim.
Woody Kane with MRN. Matt, just wanted to ask you a little bit about Dick Trickle and your memories of him.
Yeah, I mean, man, Dick was a legend, especially up in Wisconsin short track racing, where I grew up. And really, I mean, I think Brad sort of touched on it too, but I mean, really that, era of stock car racing up in that area really died with him. So, I mean, it's just, just crazy, surprising news. I don't really know all the circumstances. Last time I saw him was Slinger last year. We won the Nationals, and he always went up there for years and years. He actually created the Slinger Nationals with Wayne Erickson, the guy who owned the track. And, so I talked to him for a while, and it was right after the news came out that I was moving to Joe Gibbs Racing. And he kind of peeked in the trailer there afterwards, and of course he asked if we had any beer in there. And he came in there, and, we sat in there for 2 hours last July, and that was the last time I saw him. We talked for 2 hours. And, he had he had a unique way of looking at things. He had a ton of common sense, and he was really smart. And he always had a really, really funny way of putting things. And he went on for about an hour just about my move and what he thought was great about it, and just a lot of other interesting things that made me feel good. And 90% of the stuff he told me, at least through all the years when I raced with him and stuff, I was proved to be right. So that's the last time I saw him. I still in shock. I don't really get it. I don't really know what all went on there, so that's about it.
Mike Hembrick from Speed.com. Matt, how do you approach this race with the change in the format now, and how do you rate the odds that a single driver could win all the segments?
Well, I mean, I think certainly it could happen. I mean, I don't know about the odds. I haven't. I don't know. I gotta think about the formats a little bit and when everybody's going to pit. I mean, I think it'd be hard to lead every segment because everybody's got to pit at least once through them first 4 for fuel at least. So I'm not sure. You don't approach any different than any other time. I think the only time the approach was ever different is when they used to do that invert, which probably was never the best idea because people didn't try as hard as they could the whole time. Or really even last year, once you won a segment, the other segments you saw Jimmy, and I think we won a segment and stuff, so you're just kind of waited for the last one. So I think that the way they got set up is good. I mean, everybody's got a lot of incentive to race as hard as they can every single lap. So I think that's what you're going to see.
Jim Noble, ESPN, over here. To what freedom do you feel, the ability to drive guys differently, maybe drive them a little rougher, considering it is an all-star race and not a points race?
I race exactly the same, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I think maybe that changes, with the drivers. I think the only thing that's a little different is, you're probably not going to cut somebody a break if they're faster than you. You're not going to do some of that stuff because it is a short race, and you got to be positioned, for the end of the race. Where if you race 600 miles, it's not that you don't race as hard, but man, if somebody's pressing you for a position, 100 miles into a 600-mile race, it's not really smart for either one of you to really hold them up. You'll usually, kind of get out of the way so you can keep both making your very best time because you got another 3 hours to get back in front of them and get your car better and do all that. So I think that changes. I think everybody's. I don't think you're going to see people giving up spots. Everybody's going to be racing really hard the whole time. But as far as, being rough or wronging someone or something like that, I wouldn't change that. I mean, if you can't, if I can't beat somebody the right way, I probably won't beat them. I think if you're fast enough to get to somebody, you're going to be fast enough to pass them. There's plenty of lanes here. And, I think that always puts on a good race.
Kenny Beck, WXII 12 News, NBC up in Greensboro. Is money the main motivation this weekend, particularly in a non-points race in a season where you've already basically locked yourself into the postseason, or is there a little bit of this too that's about getting ready for the 600 next week?
There's a lot of things. I've never been in a race that I didn't want to win, whether it was, whether it paid any money or you paid to be in the race or you're getting paid to race. So certainly it's an awesome payday if you can win. I look at it as several different things. I mean, it's the All-Star race. You want to win. There's a good payday. There's a cool trophy. You get to be on that list for being an All-Star race. But I do think a really big part of it, too, is to being ready for the 600. That's only tomorrow night is the only practice in the conditions the track is going to finish up the 600, and that's the way it's going to be at the end of the race. So that's really your only chance to gather some good information and kind of figure out what you'll have for next week. Now, certainly, you want to be the best you can be tomorrow night. So good or bad, you're going to learn off that for the 600. So I think you try to pay a lot of attention to that as well.
What about Bob, Lee, and then David? Bob.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. How did Dick Trickle win 1,000 races or 1,200 short track races? I mean, what made him a good racer?
Well, first of all, by the time that I started racing short track stuff, Dick was down here running Cup stuff. I mean, he was gone for probably 5 or 6 years, before I started. So being a little kid in the stands, I used to watch him a lot. And man, there was some great races up there. I remember the first time I went to Madison. It was called Capitol Speedway then, and there was an ASA race, and it was Trickle and Mark Martin and Ted Musgrave and Bobby Dodder, and I mean it was just like you wouldn't believe all the people that were in that race. Alan Quickie, So I remember watching them guys. I mean, like I said, Dick is a legend, and for a lot of things, for the way he raced, for the way he conducted himself after the races, for all his different formulas for how much sleep he needed, and just all the different stuff. So he just, was just a racer's racer. I mean, that's all he cared about and all he worked on, and that was all he did.
Lee?
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. What is it about Wisconsin that probably other than North Carolina and now California obviously has just provided us with so many great racers over time?
I don't know when I go back that far. When I started racing short tracks, there was still a lot of places you could race up there. I mean, the season's relatively short, middle April or beginning of May till, October 1st was the last race up there because of weather. So the season was short, but you could run 5 nights a week at weekly shows. The only nights that you couldn't race was Mondays and Tuesdays on a weekly basis. So there was a lot of tracks. There was a lot of race cars. They had a different way of racing. You always, if you had fast time, you always had to start in the back. So you always had to learn how to work traffic and pass cars. And so I don't know. It was just, when I was growing up, it was still big too, but it was just always real big around there. It was just always a ton of, pavement short track racing up there.
And on a different note, what's the biggest contrast that you've noticed moving from Gibbs to Roush Fenway after being at Roush Fenway so long? Is there a couple of things in the systems that you've noticed a big difference that might have led to such early success?
I'm really just looking forward and not backward. I mean, there's a lot of things that are, that are different. So I'm not really focused on, anything that happened or didn't happen in the past. I mean, I think since the day I walked in the door at Joe Gibbs Racing, I felt really good about everything that they had going on there. About the personnel in the whole company. Certainly my respective team and Jason and certainly TRD and all the engineering support and their engines and all the stuff that they provide for us. So I mean, I felt good about everything I saw there. And the more I got plugged into that, probably the better I felt about it.
David?
David Newton, ESPN.com. Matt, how would you define a dirty driver in NASCAR?
Man, I don't know. I don't know. You threw me off on that one. I don't know if I got a good answer for you on that one. I can't think of any that are in there right now. Man, I don't know. I don't even have a good answer for you on that one. That's pretty good. You stumped me. I don't even have a bad answer. I don't even have an answer. I don't know. Nothing pops into my mind, I guess. I don't know.
Matt,
Get back
Aaron
to that
Burns, Moore's a Weekly. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, thanks.
No, just kind of curious, going back to you discussing the 600 being practice session for, the All-Star race being a practice session for the 600. I talked to Joe Nemechek yesterday, and he said that you may not have a good run in the showdown, or in your case, the All-Star race, but you can still kind of pick up some things from an R&D perspective. Is that true? And what are some things you can kind of learn from this week moving forward to next week?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a practice session for the 600. I mean, because you want to win the All-Star race, but I think you're going to learn some stuff in the All-Star race that's going to help you in the 600. So I think the very biggest thing is you practice. Obviously, conditions right now are much, much different than they're going to be tomorrow night. And the same thing goes with the 600 and with practice. So the only other time we're on the track at night probably, I think, is qualifying next Thursday. So I think the biggest thing you're going to learn is how the track changed from the middle of today when we get to do our practice to tomorrow night, and hopefully be able to apply that to next week's practice to the race.
Well, Claire, Viv, and then Dustin.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. How much do you evaluate or think about or care about the format of the All-Star race, whether it's speeding or not speeding, whether it's have to finish on the lead lap, or any other change that they might make? I mean, do you think, wow, I like that, or I don't, or you just kind of think it's interesting to race whatever they do?
Yeah, I mean, usually decide whether you like it or not afterwards. See how it works out for you. But, yeah, I mean, it was funny because Kyle on Monday at our meeting was telling us there's no pit road speed on, coming into the pits. And, I know he's crazy, but we were all like, man, you're crazy, man. There's, I can't, they haven't done that in years and years and years. And then, so anyway, I found out the other day that he was right. So they're going to write that down. He was right. So that is going to be kind of crazy. I was a little concerned about that. I was like, man, I hope I don't get beat too bad getting on there, or spin out getting on there. Either one. So that should be. I think that's going to create a ton of excitement for qualifying. I don't know how many people have caught on to that, or how many more people will come to watch that. But I would buy a ticket to sit in the stands and watch some of them guys, probably including me, get on pit road. The rest of the format, I think you just look at the rules when they come out and try to figure out a strategy and go from there. So it's the same for everybody. It's always fun to change it up a little bit.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. Matt, just talking about Dick Trickle again, you obviously had some beers with him. Can you tell me a little bit about his life after racing, what kinds of things he did? And, some drivers maybe fade away. Was he more sort of treated like royalty?
Yeah, in Wisconsin especially. Now certainly there's been a fair amount of time that's passed since he's raced a lot, and certainly that changes over the years. But, always going back to Slinger, he would always come back up there and just sign autographs and kind of be the grand marshal and wave the flag and do all that. I can't remember the last year that he raced up there. So really that's the only time that I really seen him very much. He came out here, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and I saw him for a little bit, but else I'd see him every year at Slinger. And that would be about the only time that I would run into him. So to be honest, anybody that knew Dick, when you talk to him about stuff, I don't know that I've ever talked to him about anything except for racing. So I'm not really sure what he did outside of racing, once he retired. And I really don't know. I mean, you kind of ask him, and he'd kind of give you a 3 or 4 word answer, and then you go off into a racing story. So, almost every conversation I've ever had with him was about racing, either current events or going forward, or he'd be telling me what he thought about something, or stories from the past, because he had a whole bunch of them.
Dustin Long, MRN. Matt, Joe Gibbs Racing has won all the races on the big tracks this year, the non-plate races. And it has certainly been a level of dominance. What is the difference in the car? What does it feel like for you? Certainly you've been up front, led a lot of laps, won races, and how do you look at the success, and how do you guys continue it? Obviously, 1.5 mile tracks the next couple weeks. Based on what's happened so far this season, we should just pencil in a JGR driver for the next 2 races.
I hope you're right. I really feel like as an organization we've been pretty strong everywhere. I mean, at all the racetracks, I feel like there's a couple where we've been off a little bit, but one of them was California, and Denny was leading the last lap and Kyle won. So yeah. I mean, I think their cars have been pretty fast everywhere. It's hard for me to put my finger on exactly what it is because this is my first year. It's a whole new race car. It's hard to compare to last year's car because it's a Gen 6 car. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I haven't drove a Gen 6 car in any other manufacturer or any other team or any of that kind of stuff, so it's hard for me to compare that. And I didn't drive a JGR car last year when it was the Gen 5 car. So obviously you always kind of measure where you are compared to your competition. And obviously our group has been really good compared to our competition. I don't have an exact reason why. If I did, this wouldn't be the forum for it. Or I wouldn't tell anybody about it. But, man, we've just had, our cars have just been really fast. I mean, the engines run great. The cars have been handling really good. They've had a bunch of speed. I think Jason's done a spectacular job with strategy. I think my over-the-wall guys have given me fast pit stops. I mean, we just, as a group, they've just been doing all the things you need to do to win races, and our cars have just been fast.
Yeah, Matt, Jeff of RacingToday.com. You mentioned just a second ago about there not being a pit road speed tonight during qualifying. If you go back in the day, is that remarkable to you that 43 guys during an actual race could come down pit road with no speed limit? And if you were racing back then, do you think you could be good at doing that?
It's remarkable to me that more people didn't get seriously hurt on pit road, not having a speed limit getting to the pits. So I think it's like anything. I think probably, way back in the day when I started doing pit stops, people probably didn't think about pit road that much. They probably thought about how to make their car fast on a racetrack. So there probably wasn't people totally crazy coming in, coming out, and people practicing pit stops. And then through the years, and as the competition keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter, everybody kept working harder and harder on that, and probably took more and more risks, getting on and off pit road and doing all that stuff. And I'm sure that's when the last bad accident on pit road, I think that's when the pit road speed came into play. So I'm glad that I didn't have to do it with no pit road speed. I think it could be pretty crazy and pretty dangerous, and a lot of people standing out on pit road. Now, certainly tonight's different because nobody's on pit road, and it's a safe environment. But it's I can't imagine what it would be like today if there wasn't a pit road speed. I think you'd have a lot of wrecks on pit road.
We'll go to Alan and finish up with Tom.
Alan Cavana, NASCAR.com. Matt, I think it was Brad earlier this week talked about qualifications for the Hall of Fame, including championships, Daytona 500s, Southern 500s, All-Star races, 600s. You have a lot of those on that checklist. Do you ever think that far ahead to the Hall of Fame, and what would your own checklist be?
I really don't. I mean, I hope that I have a lot of great years in front of me, and I hope that I accomplish a lot more before I'm done racing. So I haven't. I hope I'm not near close enough to not be in racing anymore to have to think or worry about that yet.
Tom.
Thanks. Tom Jensen, Speed.com. Matt, you're not a very emotional guy most of the time, but after winning at Darlington last week, you were hooping and hollering a lot. Do you feel like a new sense of renewal or a new sense of energy this year that maybe you haven't had in years past? Because you did seem really unusually fired up.
I'm actually a really emotional guy. I just don't usually show it. Yeah, I mean, I was fired up after Darlington. I mean, first of all, it's really fun to win. It's really hard to win races. I've never had a start to a season like I have had this year, and not just in the wins, but in the laps led and how dominant the cars we've had and the poles, and I mean, it's just been. Gosh, we got done with the Southern 500. It capped quite a week. I had quite the week last week. It was really fun on a lot of different levels. Did some travel and did some other things. So it was a really fun week. And then of course I was wish Jason would have been able to be there, but just to be able to put all that together. And then the Southern 500 in my mind is one of the biggest 4 or 5 races of the season. And it's one that I've always really, really, really wanted to win and never really been close. So that kind of made it extra special as well. So man, and Kyle was so dominant. I'm like, nobody's going to beat Kyle. We took off in that last run, and we were closer to the same speed than we were all night. But I felt like he still had a little something there. So then for all that to happen at the end and actually be able to win, and I really wasn't expecting it. I was hoping hang on for second or third, and to put all that together and everything, I think just all the circumstances probably added to the emotion. And sometimes it hits you more than others. I mean, it's. Still, even though I've been doing this for a while, it's just it's unbelievable that you get to do this for a living and race against Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson and all those guys out there and to be able to go do that and do it at a really competitive level and be out there and be able to win races at this level is just really, it's unbelievable. And sometimes it sinks in, more than others. Most times you just got your head down and you're thinking about the next week already and how to accomplish the next thing you want to accomplish, and maybe don't enjoy it as much as you should. And then, other times like last week, it just capped off a awesome week, and I was just pretty excited that we're standing there.
All right, Matt. Appreciate the
All right,
time, and
no problem.
good luck this weekend.